In today's episode, we'll take a deep dive into the current state of Turkey's economy, which has officially entered a recession for the first time in years. As you can see on this map, Turkey shares a lengthy southern border with Syria, and its proximity has positioned it as a key player in the region's geopolitics. Over the past decade, Turkey has supported various groups opposing the Assad regime, a move that has attracted international attention. Former U.S. President Donald Trump notably stated that Turkey holds the key to Syria's future, emphasizing its pivotal role in shaping the country's post-conflict trajectory. However, for today's discussion, we'll set the geopolitical situation aside and focus on Turkey's domestic economic issues, which have reached a critical tipping point: Turkey's recession, a major milestone. For years, Turkey managed to sustain GDP growth despite battling a series of economic crises, including soaring inflation and a depreciating currency. The latest data indicates that the economy has now entered a technical recession. This chart highlights Turkey's quarterly GDP growth figures. As you can see, the economy contracted by 0.2% in both the second and third quarters of 2024. By definition, a recession occurs when a country experiences 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. This downturn is a major setback for Turkey, which has prided itself on being a manufacturing powerhouse. Looking at the annual perspective, this chart shows Turkey's 12-month rolling GDP growth figures. The most recent figure, recorded in Q3 2024, stands at just 2.1%, the lowest in 3 years. This decline signals that the country's manufacturing sector, which forms the backbone of its economy, is facing significant headwinds. Inflation, a persistent crisis. Turkey's inflation crisis has been one of the defining challenges of its economy in recent years. This chart shows the movement in official inflation rates over the past 12 months. Between November 2023 and May 2024, inflation climbed to an alarming 75%, placing immense strain on households and businesses alike. Fortunately, inflation has shown signs of moderation in recent months, falling steadily to 47% as of November 2024. While this decline is encouraging, it's important to emphasize the broader context. A 47% annual inflation rate is still one of the highest in the world. Prices are rising far faster than wages, eroding the purchasing power of ordinary citizens and exacerbating inequality. Global context: Turkey, among the most inflated economies. To better understand Turkey's inflation crisis, let's compare its performance with other major economies. This chart shows inflation rates for G20 countries. Turkey ranks as the second highest, with only Argentina surpassing it at a staggering 166%. Argentina's economy is in freefall, and Turkey's inflation is alarmingly close to such levels. Globally, Turkey's inflation rate is the 5th highest. The only countries experiencing worse inflation are war-torn or economically collapsed nations. Syria, with 120%, still grappling with civil war aftershocks. South Sudan, where inflation is 107% due to ongoing instability. Zimbabwe, which has faced chronic hyperinflation for years, currently at 57%. This comparison highlights the severity of Turkey's situation, particularly given its status as a major global economy. Food inflation, the impact on everyday lives. One of the most concerning aspects of Turkey's inflation crisis is the sharp rise in food prices. Food inflation is particularly impactful because lower-income households spend a larger proportion of their income on essentials like groceries. This chart shows the year-on-year movement in food prices in Turkey. In November 2024, food prices rose by 48%, a significant acceleration compared to previous months. For the average Turkish household, this means basic items like bread, vegetables, and meat are becoming increasingly unaffordable. Monthly inflation. This chart highlights monthly inflation, which measures price changes from one month to the next, offering a clearer real-time perspective than year-on-year data. In November, the monthly increase was 2.2%, a marked improvement compared to earlier in the year when monthly rates were consistently higher. If sustained, this rate could bring annual inflation down to around 26-30%, significantly lower than the current year-on-year rate of 47%. However, even 2.2% monthly inflation remains alarmingly high compared to global standards, where many developed nations target an entire year of 2% inflation. Interest rates, a reversal in policy. Historically, President Erdogan has pursued unconventional economic policies, resisting interest rate hikes even as inflation soared. This approach, contrary to traditional economic theory, worsened inflation by devaluing the Turkish lira and undermining investor confidence. However, since his re-election, Erdogan has shifted his stance. Starting in June 2023, the central bank implemented 9 consecutive rate hikes, raising the benchmark interest rate from 8.5% to 50%. This chart illustrates the relationship between inflation and interest rates. In September 2024, interest rates finally surpassed inflation for the first time in years. While high interest rates are a necessary tool to combat inflation, they come with significant drawbacks. At 50%, borrowing costs are prohibitively expensive, discouraging businesses from investing and stifling economic growth. The Turkish lira, a currency in crisis. The Turkish lira's relentless devaluation has been another major driver of inflation. Over the past 5 years, the lira has lost approximately 6 times its value against the US dollar. 5 years ago, $1 traded for around 6 lira. Today, that figure exceeds 35. Zooming in on the past 12 months, the lira has depreciated by over 20%. This decline has profound implications for Turkey, which is a net importer of essential goods like fuel and food. As the lira weakens, the cost of imports rises, driving inflation higher and further eroding household budgets. Additionally, the lira's instability has fueled dollarization, with Turkish citizens increasingly opting to hold foreign currencies like the dollar and euro instead of the lira. This loss of confidence in the national currency complicates the central bank's efforts to stabilize the economy. Summary and outlook. In summary, Turkey's economy is facing a perfect storm of challenges. 1. Recession. 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth signal a contraction in the country's manufacturing sector, a critical pillar of its economy. 2. Inflation. While inflation has declined from its peak of 75%, it remains at an unsustainably high 47%. 3. Currency crisis. The Turkish lira's devaluation continues to drive up the cost of imports, fueling inflation and straining household budgets. 4. Interest rates. Although the recent hikes have helped stabilize inflation, they are stifling economic growth by making borrowing prohibitively expensive. Looking ahead, Turkey faces an uphill battle. The central bank has set an inflation target of 25% by the end of 2025. While achieving this goal would represent progress, it's still an extremely high rate by global standards. To stabilize its economy, Turkey must address its trade imbalance, rebuild confidence in the lira, and stimulate growth in its manufacturing sector. Thank you for watching this comprehensive analysis of Turkey's economy. If you found this discussion informative, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments.